This is my perspective. I'm Third Will. I'm Third Will. I'm Third Will. I'm Third Will. Hello, everybody. I'm Third Will. Tonight we're going to be covering racism. I've got a special guest with me. You might have seen him on Nick and Zone Save the World. I have the astounding, awesome
Submarine Nick, and I'm glad to be here, man.
Not a problem, man. Like I said, we're going to talk about racism, get your views on it, get my views on it, and maybe turn a head or two.
Right.
So let's start with the definition. Webster's definition is a belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capabilities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race.
It's a good place to start.
I believe it is. Yeah, like we were talking before we started recording, this is this culture that we live in right now is really kind of going downhill with this whole racism thing. Not really even following the definition of the word. It's changing.
I think a big problem is that the word racist and racism itself have been used inappropriately as a judgment of people, as a way to win an argument, as a way to invalidate people's opinions, throw them off. And the reason why that's effective is because people who aren't racist don't like being called racist. To throw a quick anecdote, like I know people, when I was in the Navy and other places, I knew people who were racist. They were tried and true actual racists, which it's funny, you might assume people might be racist until you actually meet one.
Yeah.
When you meet an actual racist, there's no blurring the lines. You know they are. And the difference is they don't mind being called racist because they know they are, and they're proud of it. They accept their racism. Just like the definition says, they believe they have some kind of superiority, and so therefore they proudly crow it. If you call someone a racist and they recoil, it's probably a good indicator they're not racist.
Exactly. Pardon my language here, my grandfather grew up in the South. He was an old Kentucky man. He served in World War II. Good old boy, down true hometown, that type of thing. And he said he was never racist. He just wasn't God did not put him on earth to talk to no niggers.
That's a little racist.
It is more than just a little racist. And my mom and everybody tried to correct him on that, but that's just the era in which he was born and the area he was born in. However, it doesn't make it right, but that's racism. When a white person votes against somebody you disagree with, that's not racism.
No. Merely because you may throw your lot in with somebody that people might have assumptions about, doesn't necessarily mean that you identify or agree to endorse everything that person stands for. If someone's like, hey, I believe that schools need funded and we need to give money to the poor, and I also just so happen to not like Jewish people. If you agree with 2 out of those 3, it doesn't mean you hate Jewish people. It means you want money for the poor and you like education. You're not so keen on the Jewish part. I mean, I'm not saying that President Trump is a racist or anything of that matter, but I am saying that people assume he is.
Yes, exactly. Oh, man. Even when you get online, I got into an argument a couple weeks back with a gentleman who went after Negasonic, my girlfriend. Was calling her a dyke and all this, and I stepped in and told him, man, you don't even know. You need to, before you're going to insult somebody, at least try to figure out what their points are. And He called me a Jew. He called me a nigger. Called me a faggot. I mean, he went all off on me, and I'm pretty white. I'm I'm pretty white. So
I don't understand the racism, particularly towards Jewish people. I mean, not saying I agree with any of it, but I just kind of I don't know where that comes from. Like, I think a lot of times it's joking because the Holocaust was kind of awful, and but then you do see people coming out of the woodwork that really believe this stuff, and it kind of wigs me out. And we'll get into more of that later. That there are people who really are racist in those avenues, and I would have thought it was a joke, but thanks to people mislabeling, misjudging racism, and literally taking the power out of the word, it's made people who really are racist come out of the woodwork and just show who they are. Now, sunlight's the best disinfectant. It's a blessing in disguise, but it's a little shocking how racist people really are out there. We already knew on one point in with we'll talk about the left with the social justice warriors, etc. When we talk about justifying racism with the progressive stack that you can't power plus privilege, you can basically do whatever you want to a white person and it's not racist.
exactly.
Of course you kind of create or brew up a counterculture. Now it already existed, but now you've kind of given it vitality. You've taken a dormant, dying, I think, breed of racism, and you've given it new blood.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, and it's definitely this. I believe Armored Skeptic had a good point when he did his video about doing a video over the MTV New Year's resolutions.
Oh my God,
that was just a horror show. But I think he had a good point when he said that the extreme left is causing, or the extreme left, as in like MTV and everything, this media culture has cultivated the word racism into this slur that now it's causing these people on the extreme right to counterfight, and you've got a cross into this new racist battle over a word that was a buzzword for a media group.
Right. Well, that's the problem. Being racist is awful, and racism is just as awful. And it's been reduced to a buzzword. That's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, all through growing up, I've always was taught that being racist was bad. That racism is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up my whole life wanting absolutely not to be that if I could in any way. And that was without any social justice work in my high school or my elementary school. That was just upbringing here in Indiana. And, even though we're not exactly blue ribbon winners for not being racist in this state.
Yeah, seeing how your cousin in the 6th grade hit me with a trapper keeper and called me a nigger lover, but hey.
Yeah, well, things, yeah, well, I can't, Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
But no, I guess what I'm trying to say is that those values are already being instilled in people. That racism and being racist is a bad thing. I think the hyper focus on our different races, on our different cultures, just how different we are, is just creating this bigger and bigger rift between everybody when it shouldn't matter. Because when you really look at it, the problem everyone has is that they're either poor or uneducated, disadvantaged and disenfranchised in those ways. And I'm not going to say that, black people in general haven't been given a very short stick when it comes to catching up because of, I don't know, slavery and other things that have happened in the past,
True.
But I feel like we've done our job with Black History Month. We've done our job with all these other programs we've had in place to kind of bring that culture out and make it stand toe-to-toe with what would be the popular culture today. And now it is American history.
Yeah.
It is American culture. It's blurred together. And trying to pull that out and separate it when it's now being mixed in where it should be to begin with is really counterproductive. It's regressive.
Yeah. especially when you get these different groups. I'm going to touch briefly on the LGBT here, but when you get the groups like them, Black Lives Matter, and everything, they're like, well, we're separate. We're separate. It's like you guys are going back to the segregation that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all those wonderful people fought against. It makes me sick. It really does.
I mean, people should be judged by the actions, things, and they say or do.
Yes.
And that's it. Their own merits. And,
Yes.
I would hope that we're getting to a point now where we can just love each other and care about each other regardless of what skin color, religion, gender, or identity we have. But this hyper focus on the individual to an extent of, like, being an individual is important, don't get me wrong, but being an individual isn't your skin color. It's not the heritage of where your family was born. Like, what my ancestors did is not who I am. If I'm hetero or homosexual, that doesn't define who I am either. It's a part of a description of me, but I'm more than an orientation. Hopefully I'm more than a skin color. I mean, I don't understand why so many people want to boil this down to that's what's important about them.
Yeah, and if you seriously look at things, that yes, our country was originally founded by pilgrims. You don't get much whiter than pilgrims.
It's pretty white.
It's pretty bad. But us as white people, we have done things in the past in our history that are very, very bad. But all cultures can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, Japan enslaved Chinese people. They enslaved South Korea. African culture, they enslave each other still to this day amongst their own tribes. I mean, you got the like the Hotel Rwanda incident, where you've got mass genocides of tribe versus tribe killing off each other. But when people don't want to look at the history, they just want to go to whatever the media feeds them, and in this case is white people are bad.
I think the single biggest thing that I dislike out of all of this and brings me the most fear is the use of racism to silence voices.
Yes.
Example, if you protest Islam because you feel like several radicalized elements of it are doing massive terrorist attacks and breeding a hostile environment in several countries throughout the world.
Yes.
And you you have a complaint about the ideology of Islam. You're branded as a racist when it's an ideology you're complaining about. That'd be like calling someone a racist for disagreeing with the tenets of Christianity. That doesn't make any sense. But it's now being used as a defense mechanism to end discussion. Like, oh, well, you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're an Islamophobe. Which, you're a phobia of an ideology. That's kind of silly if you really want to break it down. Yeah. But, when you think about it and think about trying to have an open discussion that could actually bring people together, you want to, or have us work together towards fixing an issue, we can't, because you're immediately given the racist card. You don't know what you're talking about. You have your own privilege, etc., etc. Shut you down. It doesn't work.
Yeah, or even if you have an example like over the holidays, we had the Berlin attack, where people are saying it's fake because it's being perpetrated by Islamophobes that they're just looking for a scapegoat. It's like, no, you have to hold certain ideologies and certain people responsible for their actions. It's like saying random Christian abortion clinic bomber goes in, blows up an abortion clinic. Okay, he's an asshole and he's going to go to jail. Why? Because he's a fucking nutbar.
Right.
Same way that the person who perpetrated the Berlin attack is a fucking nutbar. It's not Islamophobia. He's a fucking nutbar who committed a crime.
Right.
But that's going to be a different video.
Right, and we keep going at this rate, we'll keep going forever. So we'll
Exactly.
tackle this piece by piece, I guess, over the coming months. So,
Yep. But for right now, this is going to be the end of the first one. As always, this has just been my humble perspective, and I'm Third Will.
and I'm Submarine Nick. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. Anytime. You guys have a good one.
I'm Third Will. This is my perspective.